How you doing? So, what are my first impression of Captain Britain, the female version? So I usually do this in Marvel Contest of Champions Champion Spotlight, but I decided to go to Aunt May because it just looks cleaner. It's like seems like a cleaner and edited version. Not only that, you could see the pictures of the synergies. You can see who the champions are, and like who they what they look like. So from now on, I'm very likely going to be using Aunt May for Champion Spotlight. So, what do I think about Captain Britain? She's just a mediocre champion. I do think she's better than Captain America Sam Wilson. She definitely has a higher attack value than Captain America Sam Wilson. Overall, I think she's just mediocre. Who knows if she'll get a buff in the future, but I think she's going to be um, an okay champion only. She's going to be pretty underrated, most likely champion, Captain Britain. So I do think she's kind of like Apocalypse. She reminds me of him, but just not as good version. I do think without synergy, she's probably better than Apocalypse. If like Apocalypse has only like one charge, but the thing about Apocalypse, he just gains so much benefit through synergy. Like he can literally triple, if not more than actually triple his attack with fully synergize, and so that's why I think what makes Apocalypse so underrated, and that's why it makes Apocalypse so good, is because of his synergy. Without it, he's not that good. But that's what with Captain Britain, she's better because she's a mutant. She does benefit a lot from synergies, but not as much as Apocalypse. That's why I think she's not as good as Apocalypse. So I usually talk about her build, like my opinion on her in the beginning, because you get an idea when you read her abilities. She's pretty tanky. The, that's what I get from her. So whenever a debuff is purified, gain a bulwark passive, increasing block frequency by X amount. So this is based on a 6-star rank 4 in Aunt May. So so you don't need her to be a high sig. You just need her to be like a sig one. This isn't really necessary for offense, but for defense purposes, her block position is really strong, especially if you have her at max sig. So when you look at her always active, so she doesn't have a very high crit rate, but when you do activate her special attack, she gains X amount of critical rating, about 8,000. So she's gonna be critting a lot during her special attacks. She also inflicts an exhaustion debuff on the opponent if you get struck, like an 80% chance. So this will make her a tank, a max stack of 4. This is a great counter against like Corvus Glaive and stuff like that. For each prowess effect on Captain Britain, her defensive accuracy is decreased by 10%. So that could be good. In certain fights, basic attack deals energy damage. So this is like good against champion has like physical resistance, high physical resistance. Psionic mode. So when she's in psionic mode, she's like a tank. So Captain America Britain activates Psionic mode when she activates the special attack. If it was already on, she deactivates it instead. Psionic mode grants the following: gain physical resistance. So she gains like 2,000 physical resistance, which is pretty strong. So she's gonna be able to take a punch. Not only that, like her light attack, an exhaustion debuff reducing critical damage rating. So this doesn't, I believe, doesn't affect the limit compared to when she gets struck. So she can reduce. She has physical resistance. She can reduce critical damage on the opponent. Not only that, she can has this on the first hit of the heavy attack, inflict a non-stacking weakness debuff, reducing attack rating by 30%. So she has a weakness debuff, which is Apocalypse has the same thing. So she's really gonna be tanky. You can because she was able. She's gonna be able to take reduce opponent damage by a lot. She also has this utility which is like the slow on the second medium attack, inflict a non-stacking slow debuff. I think the slow debuff is an underrated utility. It definitely could be very useful in some fights. When purification, whenever psionic is activated or deactivated, she purifies them. She gains like a cruelty buff. She also gains unstoppable buff as well as a fury attack. The only What's the biggest downfall of her is it's only increasing her attack by like 10% for each buff, which is really nothing. The good thing about it is her prowess. It's indefinite. I really think her buffs when it comes to the cruelty buff and the fury buff, it should have been permanent or double that because it's really nothing, like 10% extra attack, which is nothing. So when let's look at her special attack, it's basically pauses her personal boss, which is good. Special attack 1, gain an energized buff, that's really good for her. Increase attack rating by by 10% per unique buff. So it's really not that high. That's probably the biggest downfall is her attack damage is not that good. Special attack 3, unactivate psionic mode, gain one of each buff and inflict one of each debuff. This effect always default to psionic mode when entering or existing. When it comes to synergy, nothing great, but she is a mutant, so you can bring in like Professor X and Colossus on the team, and you can gain that 72% poison resistant with those champions, and then you could be running damage mastery, so she can be a really tanky with damage mastery because she's a mutant. Also, she has that extra synergy with Colossus, gives her extra attack rating against non-villain champions, as well as 5% physical resistant, as well as 5% energy resistant versus villains. So that's going to be really good for her with that synergy. So I think overall she's just going to be an okay champion. I think somebody who really likes her and spends time using her, they're gonna make her useful because especially with her ability to have that slow debuff, and then if you fully ramp her up, she's gonna be pretty good. And I think that's a problem with mutants. A lot of them are underrated because the synergy they require, as well as the time to ramp them up. So that's why a lot of mutants are underrated because once you have them fully synergized as well as running damage mastery, some champions are so powerful. They become tanky because they keep healing from willpower with the poison resistant, in some cases even bleed resistant, being a mutant, the horseman synergy. So I think overall she's going to be a okay champion and probably going to be underrated, I think. So what do you guys think of Captain Britain, the female version? Thank you.